Live games with odds updated in real time. And best off, it's optimized for smartphone users for nonstop action on the go. So go online and type in MyBookie in your browser and sign up today. Use the promo code KING, that's K-I-N-G, to be entered into their $1 million prize pool. Or if you prefer, just make a phone call. 844-722-2387. That's 844-722-2387. Join thousands of online players already playing. It's the biggest, it's the best. Only at MyBookie. Sign up today. Finishing up with Brandon Marshall on the MMQB podcast with Peter King. Brandon, last one. So I've always been curious about a guy who plays in the league for a long time and who has a really tempestuous career.
I don't even know that word.
It means explosive, controversial, all that stuff. So as you sit here right now and just consider what has happened to you in the last decade, if you could, go back and change one thing, do you think it would be trying to get diagnosed earlier?
Oh, wow. Man, yes. What I know what happened with me is the pressure and the stresses of having the world at my fingertips, having access to a lot of cash, being able to do whatever I wanted, having that pressure of my family thinking that I owed them something. The pressures, my situation it's not even close to being unique. 96% of the guys in professional sports or people who are highly successful go through these things. So it's not unique. But I didn't have the skills and tools to be able to cope with all of that. The media, teammates, the pressure, every day being evaluated. And what I've learned is the longer it goes untreated, the worse it gets. So if I was able to pick up those skills and tools then, I would have saved myself a world of hurt. But I also look at it this way too. It's like, man, our country is so unhealthy when it comes to our mental health. And I just thank God that he's using my wife and I as vessels to be able to put a face on it, to put a voice on it, and take this conversation from a taboo topic to an everyday conversation. When we started this 5-6 years ago, no one was talking about it. Now you look up, Urban Meyers just came out. He just came out on Bleacher Report, I think it was, and told his story of why he had to walk away. I mean, he was drinking beer and drinking and taking pills every night to go to sleep, and how unhealthy he was. The Rock talked about depression. Demi Lovato. Like every day, all of these celebrities and prominent businessmen and politicians and leaders are coming out telling their story. There's a lot of ground that's been covered in these last 5-6 years, and we're proud of that.
Last one. What do you want the first paragraph of your obituary to say?
Man, wow. That's a deep one. I thought you were going to go stay with football. Like, what is your legacy in football? But I was prepared for that one. This wasn't that. I would say just a passionate, loving man. Passionate, loving man. All in. Whatever he did, he was all in.
Brandon Marshall, really appreciate the conversation. Good luck this year.
Thank you, Peter.
This is the MMQB podcast with Peter King.
Well, here we are in the bowels of University of Phoenix Stadium, Glendale, Arizona. I'm with Larry Fitzgerald. Larry, appreciate you joining me on the podcast. So I always tell people when they say, who are the interesting people in the NFL? You're in the first paragraph, and I say, Larry Fitzgerald has the coolest life because in the off season, he doesn't go just to whatever, the Mexico or to San Diego or whatever. I mean, he's been everywhere in the world. So what fueled your travel bug?
Well, as a young man, Mr. King, my parents, we didn't have an enormous amount of wealth, but my parents, both working class, middle class folk, and they would take us all around the country. So it was to the Grand Canyon, it was to Yosemite National Park, it was to Niagara Falls, Lake Okeechobee. I mean, we just kind of did our thing domestically, and that kind of just really, spawned my interest of travel. And when I finally got a chance to have my own means, and I wanted to explore the world, and I got a chance to go to, now it's been 96 countries.
96 countries.
Yep, and I love it. And I try to immerse myself in the culture, different cuisines. You know, I don't do what the tourists do. I have my guide take me. If your mom and dad were going on date night, where would they go? You know, I want to go to places that are off the beaten path and get a true, authentic experience of where I'm at.
Where did you go this off season?
This off season, my big one, I went to Congo. I went to Kinshasa, Congo. We did a humanitarian mission there for about 5 or 6 days with Starkey Hearing Foundation. And, you know, I like to travel, and most of my travel is usually wrapped around some type of humanitarian mission. And then I'll kind of do some other things in the area or on the way home, you know, that I really want to see that were in the area. And that's kind of where I got my start.
So what is the Starkey Foundation, and what's your involvement in it?
So Starkey Hearing Foundation is a company out of Minneapolis, Minnesota, actually a station in Eden Prairie, and their owner and founder, Bill Austin, is my next door neighbor there. And he invited me on a mission, I think, in 2007, and we went to India for 14 days, fitting hearing aids for people every single day, men, women, and children that are affected. And I never knew it was such a major issue until I went with him. But you know, out of all the things that I've done on the humanitarian side, that is one of the most gratifying, because somebody sits down in your chair, they can't hear, they cannot communicate, they are completely disconnected to the world. The things that you take for granted, listening to the car horn or listening to cell phone rings, that's absent from their lives. And by the time they get up and they're fit with the hearing aid, you know, their life is and their world is open. And to see the emotions that the families have when it happens, I mean, it's really
what are the emotions? Do they cry?
Well, I mean, it would be like if you and I brought our child, you know, to just pleading with a doctor to be able to help my son, help my daughter. He can't hear, he can't go to school. You know, there's so many things that they're uninvolved in. And by the time that child is able to hear, he's looking around, he can hear the voices and all the things that we take for granted, like the buzzing noise at his generator over here, just those small things. And you see the mom and the dad and the brothers and the sisters, and they just light up, and then the emotions just start flowing, and it's like you lose it and they lose. I mean, it's just like, it's really one of the most special things I've done.
So tell me, let's figure 2 or 3 places that you would think, now that is the coolest place in the world that I have ever been. What would be the candidates for those sights and sounds?
One would be Antarctica. I went there 3 years ago, and I'm sitting there, and I'm around this penguin colony, and I'm just imagining, like, how many people have actually been here. And I finally got an estimate. They said less than 100,000 people in forever have been to Antarctica.
How do you get there?
So there's 2 ways. You can either sail the Drake Passage through at the bottom part of Chile or Argentina, or you can fly into a Argentinian Air Force base there, and that's how I got there. And then we took a boat there for about 7 days, and I just went around and saw, you know, just unbelievable sights. Some of the glaciers floating and icebergs and, you know, wildlife, and it was just really fascinating.
Wow.
And the next one I would say that's really high on my list is my first international trip. I went to Australia, and I spent 41 days there. I toured the whole entire country, and I went to a place called Alice Springs, and it has a really majestic Aborigine feel to it. And, you know, it's one of those ancient settlements where you just feel the spirits and the energy of the people from the past. And I remember riding a motorcycle. I never rode a motorcycle before. I rented a motorcycle, and I drove from Alice Springs to Ayers Rock on a road that I saw maybe one other car in the 3 hours I was on a motorcycle. All I saw was kangaroos and wildlife. And I was thinking to myself as I was riding, like, how lucky am I? Like, how lucky am I to be doing something like this at 21 years old? And that was really a cool experience. And another one I would say is, there's been so many, but if I had to pick one, I would say it would be, I took a microplane like over Iguazu Falls in Brazil. And that was really, really a cool experience.
What is a microplane?
It's a really small plane. There's only 2 people that can get on it, and it's actually open to the air. So you're flying over, you're feeling the mist like all in your face, and you're looking at one of the greatest, you know, waterfalls in the world. So that was really smooth.
Wow. Those are fun. Have you ever, on any of these trips to the 96 countries, have you ever been afraid? Ever been scared?
No, honestly, it's, you know, people ask
either
me
by a person or an animal.
No, people often ask me that, and it's much more dangerous on the south side of Chicago, or in North Baltimore, or somewhere in Dade County, or, you know, South Central Los Angeles. I mean, America's probably the toughest place you can find right now. But most times you go around and if you don't mean anything bad, I mean, I've walked through the favelas in Brazil before with no problems. People are genuinely friendly. If you're not coming there to cause any harm or do anything that's going to hurt anybody, most times people are pretty cool.
Where's the strangest place that somebody said, "Hey, you're Larry Fitzgerald"? That maybe you're out there for 2 or 3 or 4 days and they just look at you, you're another person.
Kathmandu, Nepal.
What happened?
Yeah. So I was on my way to the base camp of Mount Everest, hiking, getting myself ready, and randomly to some guy said, "Man, you're Larry Fitzgerald, aren't you?" That's like, out of all the places I would be, that was really strange. But, it's the National Football League has an unbelievable global reach, and that's really cool to see that our game is continuing to grow, and the visibility of it, and our athletes are becoming more and more known around the world.
So, in the short time we have left, I want to ask you, for some reason, I'm kind of possessed by this, and because I've asked you this 10 times. So there's this record out there that Jerry Rice has for the number of catches in a career. He had 1,549. You started this season 531 catches behind him. You started this season at the age of 33 years old. Is there any way that you can play 5 more years at a high level? That's part A. Part B, would you even think of doing that?
A, I don't have any desire to play another 5 years. So I don't think the record is attainable, to be honest with you. To think you have to play 15 seasons and catch 100 passes. I mean, like that. So many things have to go right for you to be able to accomplish something like that. I mean, there's some other records, that I don't think, will be touched either.
But if you finish whatever it is, 2nd, 3rd, 4th on that list in your career, you could lay your head down at the pillow at age 50 and look back and say, I had a pretty good career.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's to be able to do what I've done for as long as I've done in the National Football League is truly a blessing. When I first got in the league, I just wanted to play. I didn't have any time that I wanted to play, how long I wanted to play. I just wanted to go out there and play and do something that I dreamt about, and I've done that. And there's really only one thing that really keeps my fire burning, and that's winning the championship.
I'll always remember the postseason you had when you guys went to the Super Bowl, and what an incredible postseason it was. Not just yards, but just how you were such a difference maker in that playoff run for you guys. And I wonder, when you think back to that postseason that obviously ended in the Super Bowl loss to Pittsburgh, but when you think back to that season, what happened to catapult you guys late in that year after having such a down sort of end of the season?
Well, I think it really was that very lopsided loss we suffered to New England Patriots. It was the second to the last game. We went out to Foxborough. Our buses were delayed getting from, Providence into Foxborough. I mean, we actually walked into the stadium probably about 50 minutes before kickoff, so we had no time to warm up. Just throw your pads on and go. And we went out there and we got embarrassed. And that was the year actually that Tom Brady was hurt, and they actually missed the playoffs at being 11-5 that year. And I think that kind of just showed us, the opportunity that we have here to win a division at 9-7 and get a chance to play in the playoffs. And we can't take that lightly. We have to make sure we're doing everything we can to prepare ourselves for what's to come. We came out the next week, played against Seattle, played a fantastic game. And I think that momentum from that week, really picked up, and, it turned into something really special.
This is your 13th year. You've only missed 6 games because of injury in all these years. When you look at it right now, is it genes? Is it preparation? What exactly is it? Knowing that almost every week you're public enemy number 1 with the defensive coordinator, that they're going to try to stop you. What is it? What has happened with your body that has made you so able to play every week?
Well, I mean, I've only missed that many games, but there's been many, many more that I could have missed. You just playing the National Football League, you understand you have to play through, serious injuries, ankle sprains and hamstrings and all these type of things. And, it's a result business. It's about going out there and doing your job and being a professional. Whenever I'm hurting and I'm thinking, maybe I might not be able to fight through, I always think back to, moments when my mother was sick, dying of breast cancer. And, I remember holding her hair, when she's thrown up, in the toilet after chemotherapy, and her still getting us to school and going to work. It was about, being accountable to people that depended on you. And, I kind of try to take that same mentality, obviously not